Welcome to the Men After God podcast, where you will be challenged and encouraged as you pursue God, achieve success, and raise a thriving family. Join your host, Dustin, and his guests on a weekly journey to grow as husbands, fathers, and men after God. Here is your host, Dustin Alley.
Hey guys, welcome back to another week of the Men After God podcast. I'm excited about the new connections that we are making every day when it comes to the After God network. It has been a phenomenal thing to see what God has done by connecting us with other men and women, and that's something we'll be talking about in the coming months, but other men that are following Jesus in their own way. Just recently, we had interviews with people from global business leaders that are now focusing on small business. We've had interviews with authors, people in real estate, coaches, just across the board. We talk to many different men that are following Jesus in their own way. And I'm thankful for you listening today that are following Jesus as he's called you to. And I hope this is going to be an encouragement to you, because I got two great guests with me today. They're going to be talking about the importance of getting away. We've got Josh and Jesse here who have phenomenal organizations that have partnered together to provide a service to Christians and non-Christians across the globe, and then also a focus on pastors and clergy to help avoid burnout. But it's not just pastors and clergy that are burning out. Husbands, fathers, business owners are burning out on a weekly basis because you are striving for something that maybe you're not even meant for, and you're trying to juggle everything and you're out of balance. Well, the Men After God Network is here to help you find that balance in such a way that you can have success in life with a thriving faith and family. So be sure to reach out, facebook.com/groups/Men After God, and we'd love to connect with you. But before we connect with you on there, let's connect with you to our guest here today. Josh, man, thank you so much for being here with us today. Jesse, you too. Josh, tell us a little bit about your family, salvation story. Let's let the guys get to know you a bit.
Yeah. Well, currently reside in Michigan. Grew up in Southern Indiana. Went to Bible school in Dallas, Texas. That's where I met my wife from Michigan, and so that's why I'm in Michigan. It's typically the way it happens.
Are you now? You said now. Where did you grow up? You're not from Michigan?
No, from Southern Indiana originally.
Okay,
and Seymour.
Yeah, and you met a Michigan woman in Dallas, Texas, and she took you back to Michigan. How dare her?
Yes,
right.
And
I can't believe
knew it. She told me that would happen too, and she was right the whole time.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh, I hate it when
so
they're right.
Yeah, I know. We're currently in Michigan, and pastoring a church. Got 5 kiddos. And people always get big saucer eyes when I say that, but for me, I grew up one of 8. So I feel like I haven't quite measured up yet. I'm not quite a real man yet.
Yeah.
But five is certainly keeping us busy. And my oldest is a freshman in college, and my youngest is a kindergartner. So we got the whole spread there, and having a ton of fun with it. In addition to pastoring the church and ministering to my family, CEO of Lodge Lovers.
Yeah, that is awesome, man. You have 5 kids. I got 3, and I'm good. You know, for everyone that goes past 3, I'm just like, hey, you're an overachiever, right? Like God said to multiply. We got 2 plus 1. I'm okay. I'm good with that, right?
There you go. There you go.
You kind of systematize it, I guess, after the first couple, you know, because it's like, okay, you know how to take care of this one. Good. Do that for the next one too. And pass that on.
I like to remind people that God did say multiply.
Amen.
And, you know,
and it wasn't just to you personally. Other people can be involved in that process. So don't feel as though you got to go too far above and beyond.
Yeah. Well, and I tell people who only have 2 kids, I said, you've just replaced yourself. There's been no multiplication yet.
Yeah,
so you have at least one more to go.
That's awesome. That is so good. I love it, man. Thanks, Josh. Jesse, let's hear from you, man. Talk about your family for a bit.
Yeah, I've been married for 18 years. Met my wife in high school. We lived like 2 miles down the road from each other our whole lives. We didn't meet until high school. And
oh, wow.
I broke up with her. She needed to go away to college and mature a little bit. She would smack me really hard if she was next to me right now.
Okay. We may edit that part.
It's totally untrue. Yeah, I had a lot of maturing to do. We got back together, and we've got 3 kids. So just stop that multiplication thing that Josh was talking about. And so I've got a 16-year-old daughter. but thankfully she's a good kid. She doesn't give me too many gray hairs yet. And I've got a son that's 15, just started driving, and then a son that'll turn 12 this month.
Oh, wow, man. That's awesome. That is so cool. Yeah, I've got 3 kids at home. I've got a 12-year-old boy, a 9-year-old boy, and a 7-year-old daughter right now. And yeah, it's fun. You mentioned the gray hairs. I've definitely gotten a few just from my daughter. Like, God bless them. I don't know how my daughter is 7 going on 17. It's just crazy. The attitude and stuff, it's all from her mother too. It's her fault. All right. My editor can take that out too.
Yeah,
but anyway,
lots of editing.
Yeah. They're gonna have some work to do today. No, man, that is wonderful, man. And so we were talking a little before we jumped on here, Jesse, and you're saying how you grew up. Like, you didn't grow up in a pastor's home or anything like that. Talk a little bit about your upbringing and kind of what you do for work.
Yeah, I grew up in a Christian home. I accepted Jesus at a vacation Bible school in the backyard of Dan and Mary Peterson from my church. We had this Sunday school named Adventure Club, and so it's in their backyard. But I didn't get serious about following Jesus until I had kids. Like I was kind of a Sunday morning warrior, and I was very much like consumer Christian, just the typical, like, how am I being fed? And then when my wife and I got married, we were really talking, like, God's important to us. We wanted to make sure that we had things hammered out there. And so that kind of started us getting into the Word together more. And then we started up a Bible study from our house and started really diving into the Word. And then, man, once you have kids and you just see that miracle of life, and it's like, all right, I've got people responsible for me that I'm responsible for. I've got to get my things together here. That was when I really started walking with Jesus, and he started really, rocking my world, because we can live pretty selfishly, and I was one of those people. And I grew up on a cranberry marsh, and so that was really cool. A lot of hard work.
Cranberry marsh.
Yeah.
All right.
So
let's inform those of us who have no clue what is it like a cranberry farm?
Yeah. So if you've ever seen like an Ocean Spray cranberry commercial, like, people think out in Massachusetts is the cranberry capital, but Wisconsin's actually the cranberry capital of the world as far as
stake your claim right now. I got you. Yeah.
And so cranberries are grown in like a lowlands area. They're a vine. They don't grow underwater or in the water. But they float. So when it comes time to harvest the cranberries, you flood the depressions where the vines grow. We call them cranberry beds, so that you've got like a 3 foot to 4 foot high dike road that surrounds the cranberry bed. You fill it up with water, knock the berries off of the vines, and they float to the top of the water, and you collect them off.
Wow.
So it was a really cool upbringing. Learned a lot of hard work. But yeah, we weren't a mission family, or my parents weren't pastors or anything. But through that upbringing in the cranberry market, like, we got into processing cranberries, because the cranberry market took a dive in, like, right when I graduated high school. And I had plans to take over the cranberry marsh, and my parents had to sit me down and say, like, we can't even afford to bring you on, but if we invest everything we have into processing these cranberries, we might make it. And so we started this mom and pop processing plant for cranberries, grew it up to where it was second largest behind Ocean Spray. And then it was really tearing our family up, so we sold it.
Man.
And
wow. Well, it's really cool. I mean, to hear that you guys were able to grow it up to that level. And did I hear you say tearing our family up? Is that what you said?
Yeah. My dad was 5 years retired. My mom was we were a woman-owned company. My mom's CEO, And then I was like head of operations in the processing plant. And so my mom and I were working together each day, and that went fairly well most times. But my dad really wanted my mom to retire, and I had wanted nothing to do with taking that CEO spot. Like my passion was in the processing and the operations. And so we just decided as a family, rather than let it divide us any more than it already had, that we should sell it. Like we were in a position to grow. So everybody was like trying to find the catch as to why we were selling it. But we got connected with another really good family owned company. They bought it. I stayed on with them. And then right out of the gate, them buying the plant, they wanted to like triple our output. And what really started this journey for my wife and I was oh boy, Josh, should I even get into this story? Like you talk about a rabbit trail.
Man, it's good. It's good. Cause as you're thinking and putting that story together before you start talking about it, I just want to highlight kind of what you said right now. Your family adapted and overcame a situation that could have put them under and really put you in a bad financial situation. So you persevered through that. And then whenever that was starting to impact the relationships of your families, and to our audience, guys that are listening, this is what I want you to hear from what I just heard, is that you chose your family over the finances, and you chose your family over the business. And guys, that is the greatest decision I think many of us have to make sometimes, and sometimes don't want to, but when in reality, it's the better decision. And so Jesse, that's just a phenomenal example for us right there, man. That is awesome.
Yeah, thankfully my parents are Christians, so we're always prayerfully approaching everything. And God kind of gives you that peak down the road of like, if I stay on this trajectory, what's going to happen? Yeah. And we knew it wasn't going to be good. And so, but that made the decision. It made the decision easy. The process wasn't easy, but it worked out well. So.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it sounds like that's what kind of got you started into this industry you're in now. And before we get to that, I want to jump back over to Josh real quick and talk about your journey as pastor of a church and now CEO of Lodge Lovers. Talk a little bit about what the journey was like. And you're still pastoring, so it's not like you went from one to another, but just what it was like bringing that into your life. And then talk a little bit about Lodge Lovers, what it is. And then before you end, I can ask it or you can answer it. That big question as to why should I use Lodge Lovers instead of that other organization that people know about. He who shall not be named today.
Exactly. Well, my wife and I, we've been married for 24 years, and we met in our Bible college days and got married soon after we graduated. And we spent the first 3 years of our marriage doing campus ministry in Fort Worth at TCU. And during that whole time, those 3 years, and even during my time in school, I had learned enough to know you be obedient, right? When God opens the door and you discern this is Him working and moving, you obey. And so even the whole act of going down to Bible school was an act of obedience. And I would frequently remind the Lord that this is great, but just so you know, I'm not going into ministry as a career. And even after we graduated and we got married and we started doing the campus ministry, the same story. I knew this is absolutely what the Lord has for me to do, but would at the same time remind the Lord, this is great for now, but this is not what I'm going to be doing. And it was really through what I would call the biggest trial of my life to that point, and definitely one of the biggest trials of my life to this point, where we were involved in ministry on the campus, and we were actually connected with another ministry couple, and that ministry couple who we kind of came under, the husband, who would have been, I would have called him the campus pastor. We would have been associates to kind of understand that relationship. He just had a tremendous moral failing, and it crushed my wife and I. It ended his marriage. It crushed the ministry. We had a thriving campus ministry, probably over 100 students that would participate, and it was a big blow to a lot of people. And, in that time, I mean, you could just imagine just everyone dispersed, everyone took off. And my wife and I, we knew we couldn't do that. We knew we couldn't abandon the students. We couldn't leave the ministry in the shambles that it was in. And so we stayed. We stayed and we picked up the pieces. And the Lord gave us specific things. You're going to accomplish these things, and we accomplished them. But that year and a half that we stayed after he had his moral failing was probably the most heavy season of my life.
Man, that's grueling.
It was a lot of questioning and doubting my own, but trying to be strong for those around me and trying to be strong for my wife. I had this guy that, I had entered into a mentoring relationship with, and his name was Jerry Savell. And Jerry was actually a licensed professional counselor. And we had some therapy sessions. We'd meet at Denny's once a week, and I would just pour it out on him, and that really helped me out. But it was in that season too that I came to the conclusion, Lord, I get it. This is what you're calling me to. This is the life that you're calling me to. And I began to pray a prayer that I hadn't prayed to that point. And this prayer changed my life. And that was, God, this isn't my life anymore. This is your life. It's not my future. It's your future. So whatever you want to do with it.
That's awesome.
And when I started praying that prayer, that's when I was able to just have a lot more peace in that season, was able to get better perspective, was able to lead better, stopped fighting God, stopped asking why. And we navigated that season to its conclusion, to its end. We had got the ministry out of debt. It was in $30,000-$40,000 of debt.
Wow.
We had got and the bad part about that is that all that debt was on student credit cards. If you could imagine. The guy, part of the failing was he had manipulated some students to let him use their credit card. And, so we got 6 or 7 sets of angry parents calling us. We're fresh kids out of college trying to navigate this. So that was just part of the pressure we were feeling. But we got the ministry out of debt. We paid off all that debt. We got the support coming in it needed to sustain. And we got replacements. We reproduced ourselves. And I think that's a very important thing.
Absolutely. That's discipleship.
It is. And a lot of times we measure success by what we produce. And I think, especially in the kingdom, we need to measure success by what we reproduce.
That's good.
That is a greater measure. And so once those 3 things came into alignment, we got the phone call from the home church my wife grew up in, of all places. She moved to Texas from Michigan, her home church. I found out pretty quickly after I started dating my wife that she was the golden child of our church. That when I married her and took her down to Texas, there were a lot of people in the church who were not happy with me about that. So as soon as the church was in a place they could make us an offer to come on staff, they did, and we came on staff as college ministers in the local church, which is a totally different game than college ministry on campus. But we did that faithfully for 9 years. And after 9 years, took over the senior pastor role. My predecessor, who brought us on board, got promoted to a regional position. And we took on the senior role. That was in 2012. And we've been senior pastor position ever since then. And then Lodge Lovers came around in 2020. Before COVID was a household name.
Which is the best time to launch a business. It just seemed like that was the year to do it. If you had to pick a year, I don't think you could have picked a worse one. But hey, let me pause you for a second, Josh, because what you dealt with there is something a lot of guys deal with in Christianity, and that's the moral failure of a spiritual leader in their lives.
Yeah.
And man, what type of damage that can wreak in the lives of those who were being ministered to by that individual. And loved that individual. And I love your story of perseverance through that. And it was a commitment to God, not to a man. And it's so hard sometimes to detach those two in the eyes of some people. But it sounds as though you handled that with some grace, humility, and some grit to really be there for others after the moral failure of that individual. And man, there a lot. I was a part of a church, not where a moral failure took place, but there was a split once. And man, that's heart wrenching. And then when I came to pastor here, the previous pastor, there were some issues, but and people are hurt after that. So that's why I said grueling whenever you talked about that first year and a half, because you're ministering to hurt people, and oftentimes hurt people. And I know what the receiving end of that can't always be good. But yeah, man. So you started senior pastor in 2012. 8 years later, CEO of Lodge Lovers is on the resume. So launched in 2020. What was it like?
Yeah. So the idea came when James Brutt, who's co-founder, was sitting in a garage on a snowy, cold January afternoon in Michigan. And this particular guy, he was a realtor and he loved to go fishing. And he was expressing just some frustration he had with the big box short-term rental sites. And that was, he always just ended up going to the places he knew, where he knew that he liked to go fishing, where he had experienced fishing before. And he said, I wish there was a website where I could go to, and instead of just searching for where to go, I could search for what I want to do, and then just let the adventure take me wherever it does. And that was kind of the light bulb moment, cool. where he quickly brought me in and said, "What do you think about this idea?" And I being in Michigan, know a lot of outdoors people. I know people who have their outdoor passions, and I know how crazy they are about their outdoor passions, how much money they spend on their outdoor passions. And I knew if there was an idea that legitimately hooked into that community, that the sky was the limit. So before I came on board and started helping, I told James, I said, "Hey, where can I invest? Show me where to write the check to, and I want to be a part, because this sounds amazing." And he said, "Well, why don't you put your checkbook away and let's go to work. Let's make it happen." And so we did that. And from the very beginning, James is an elder at his church and the pastor at my church. From the very beginning, we knew that there was a divine element to it. Kind of the same way I'd sensed you're going to Bible school. This is the Lord opening a door, and I got to go. Same way I sensed the Lord opening a door for me to do campus ministry at TCU. Even though I was reluctant, I knew enough to obey. And I had that same sense about this. There's something, there's divine purpose in this. The Lord wants to use this. And then when COVID came about, we began to think, well, this was the divine purpose, because what we've created in Lodge Lovers is all about helping people get outdoors and do what they love. And we thought, man, this is a time in just culture, in world history, where people are looking to not go to New York, not go to Orlando. They're looking to get outdoors, to get isolated, to get in nature. And, I always think of Romans, that creation itself, brings testimony to God's existence. Yes. And so we're like, man, we need to get people out in nature, to husbands and wives to connect with each other, because I think we're aware of the uptick in divorce in that season, to get families to connect with one another, leave dysfunction behind and truly connect. Hearts of the parents turning towards their children, hearts of the children turning towards their parents, and get people in nature and connect with God. And that was really our heart. And so we started building the platform with that intent, with that passion and that purpose. And, we worked there. You can imagine there's a lot of hurdles, a lot of barriers in building a short-term rental platform like we have. Maybe this is where that grit, that I learned early, came into play. Just that resiliency. We refused to give up. We knew we had something great. We did a lot of market research, so we knew that there was something here that people were legitimately enthused about. And so we just continued on and we made it happen. And we finished the platform. We finished building the project 2022. We really took a whole year, did market research. We took about another year and built the product. But it was in 2023 that we met with Jesse and Be Still B&B, and we had been going along knowing that the Lord wanted to use this, but when we met Jesse, it was that aha moment. It was that this is what it's been about the whole time. This is what it is.
Sense. Yeah, I love that. And so now you're talking about Jesse. Now let's go and flip it over there to him. Hey man, so you got that Be Still B&B that partnered up with this. So Jesse, pick up where Josh left off. Talk about that first time you guys met, what that was like, and just kind of how it developed into what it is, and how Be Still B&B came together.
Yeah, so I got to go back a little bit because we kind of left off on cranberries and what.
Yeah.
So we really long story short, once we sold our company, I stayed on with the new company, and God opened my eyes in a deer stand, where, you know, when you're sitting alone with God in nature from a deer stand, and you have everything's kind of quieted down and you can just hear his voice. I had been on a business trip and had like a near-death experience. Okay. And I was kind of recalling all the things that happened, and from the deer stand. And God just asked me, if I had demanded your life that day, what do you have to show for it? And all of a sudden the parable of the talents came into my mind. And for the first time in my life, I realized that I was the wicked servant that had buried the talents. Everything that I had ever done in my life, like every pursuit I had, we sold the business, what I had put my hands to work doing was all for self-gain. Like, sure, I was a Christian and I was giving money towards different causes, but when just me and God in the deer stand, you're sitting there before your creator, and he puts you nose to nose with a question like that. It's like, I'm the wicked servant, Lord. And so I'm like, I just prayed this prayer. I'm like, Lord, I promise you from this day on, every talent you give me, every treasure I come across, it's getting put to work for your purposes. Show me what you want me to do. And it was like a year after that prayer, we were at a church service and we saw a burnt out pastor. It was plain as day. And my wife and I had been praying about, we felt like God wanted us doing more with our lives than what we were. We didn't know what that looked like, but we were willing to go where he wanted us to go. And we'd always had this dream to work. You know, we were working for retirement. We wanted to buy a bed and breakfast in Door County, Wisconsin, and just kind of run it till we died. And once we were faced with clergy burnout, we started asking God, like, it really rocked us seeing this pastor talking with his congregation about going on sabbatical leave. And we questioned if he would come back from that sabbatical leave. Like he looked chewed up and spit out.
So, hey, Jesse, let me pause you real quick, because I want to help our guys here that have pastors and or friends with pastors. What was it? I mean, it sounds as though he was giving some sort of talk to his congregation, but what was it that you noticed that really was like, man, this guy needs some rest. This guy needs to get away.
Yeah. So this was a Mother's Day service, just to kind of set this up. And so we surprised my parents at their church. And so we were like, oh, Mother's Day service, flowers and chocolates and whatnot. Like, we knew what was going on at our church, and I knew what I was pulling my wife away from. And this was like a housekeeping pastor, his congregation. He had some serious health concerns, some family crisis situations that he needed to address. So it was really like this transactional, like, here's what I'm going to work on when I'm on sabbatical. Here's what's going to happen at church. And so we weren't sure all the details surrounding this, but one thing we did know was this man had waited too long to take a sabbatical. And it was to a point of where it wasn't a gift. It was necessary. And it was, we weren't convinced that he would come back from sabbatical because he was run down. And so it rocked us enough to where we started asking questions like, who's got our pastors' backs? I know my parents, I know their church, I know that they're supportive of their pastor. How did this happen? And, so we were praying to God about this, and we were asking some serious questions of who's got our pastors' backs, who's got missionaries' backs, what would happen if our pastors burned out? What would it look like in our community? How would that affect us? And then God pointed right to Jesus, and Jesus never burned out. And what he modeled was withdrawing often and getting alone with the Father in nature and praying. And it was like God just gave us this recipe of, you guys are not counselors. I don't want you to counsel. You don't have a program. You don't have a book. You don't need it. What I need you to do is set the table for people to have distraction-free time alone with me and watch what I'll do. Can you do that? And we were, yes, Lord, we're here. So I quit my job. We sold our house. We drained our accounts, and we built this retreat facility out on our hunting land. So we have 5 overnight cottages and a meeting barn. And we just started inviting pastors and missionaries out to use this place free, just eliminating all the excuses that church leaders have for not getting away. And we really we're adult only retreat here on site. We wanted to focus in on personal relationship with God, relationship with spouse and support staff. And in 2019, we were booked at capacity. We serving 1,200 guests a year, all for free. We're booked 3 months out. And so we're like, all right, Lord, the demand is so much greater than what we're offering. How do we expand this thing? And we had already spent everything that we had on building this first retreat. We have a good donor base that pays the bills, but it's like, all right, we can't build a replica of this. How do we, and we knew that retreat facilities across the country are at capacity too. Like, it's a common problem. So God pointed our eyes to the short-term rental market and the fact that there is this huge network of Christians that have property investments all around the world that they're hosting the general public to for pay. What if we could get them to rally around a platform where they could donate just fractions of time at those places the way that we are at our retreat, and see if we can really put a dent in this clergy burnout worldwide through the collective efforts of the body of Christ, just being generous with the stuff that God's blessed them with. And so that platform design work that we did with our team of donors, we had kind of exhausted the funding that we had in just designing the platform. So expensive to design something like Airbnb. So we got connected with Josh and James through a mutual pastor friend, knew what we were up to, knew what they had built, and like, you guys got to meet. And from the first time that we got on the phone together, we knew, like, all right, this is a God ordained thing. Let's integrate our idea for generosity onto the platform you've already created, and let's get to work, like, hammering on this clergy burnout problem.
Man, that is phenomenal. I love just the divine appointment that was made there between all y'all, and then your heart for the pastoral burnout thing. I tell you, it's a real thing. I've experienced it myself, and again, it's not just pastors, guys. Because of what Jesse's focusing on, that is the terminology of what we're using, but it's common across the board with men. I think it happens with women too. I obviously know more about it with men just because I talk to them, and a lot of that. Jesse, you said I'm not a counselor. I don't don't have a book or a program. I'm a coach. I have a book coming out, and I do have a program. And so one of the things I would tell you when it comes to this is you've got to start with who you are in Christ, to finding out what Christ has called you to do with your life, and then live from that identity with that purpose, saying no to the other things that keep you from it, focusing on those 5 main areas that we preach and teach on constantly here with Men After God: is deepening your relationship with Jesus, devoting time to your family, developing yourself, delivering value to others, and doing nothing for Jesus. Rest, because he's the Lord of the Sabbath, and the Sabbath was made for man, not for the Sabbath. So it's an act of worship when we actually withdraw and rest in him.
Yeah.
And so when pastors, when business owners, when fathers, husbands, when you're experiencing that type of burnout, you need to take a step back, and you need that evaluation of, hold up, am I living from who God's called me to, or am I living for an identity that I think I need to achieve? And so, no, man, I love what you're hitting on there, because it is so prevalent and just across the Big C church, if you will. It's not an isolated incident or problem. And Josh, you've been a pastor for a long time, and I know you're about to say something, but before you jump into what you're going to say, would you just have you answer this? Have you had experience with burnout yourself, or maybe a close friend, and maybe talk about what some things were you look back on that led you to that point?
Yeah. I mean, definitely you could look back to the story I told about the early days in ministry. And I think what was most exhausting was focusing on me. And here's what I mean by that.
There we go.
Why did this happen to me? Why did I miss, the warning signs? Where was my discernment? Why couldn't we see this coming? And then focusing on, not necessarily what I was feeling and how I had been wronged, but rather focusing on God's sovereignty, focusing on my wife, who was there at the time, was before kids. So focusing on her health and her well-being. It drew me outside myself, but I had to learn to get those things out. I did have to learn in a healthy way, go before the Lord and get those things out, not do it in unhealthy ways, which I had been guilty of, telling my woes or bleeding on people. I've learned in leadership, it's good to show people your wounds, but don't bleed on them.
I like that.
And
that is good.
I was bleeding all over people, and that wasn't good. That wasn't good for me, and it wasn't good for them. So there was a season I had to learn how to handle that in a healthy way. And, that I would say is the closest I've ever been to burnout.
Wow.
I've been blessed. And one of the things I was going to speak up and say,
go ahead.
My family and I, we've been blessed almost since we moved up here to Michigan. We got connected with the ministry that actually provides free vacations for pastors. And we would not have been able to do the vacations that we had if we had not been connected with them. In fact, we just scheduled for this July, we're going to be going down to New Smyrna Beach in Florida for a couple weeks through this ministry. And there's no way with 5 kids and
is that Be Still B&B you're talking about?
That this one isn't Be Still B&B though.
Okay. I was about to say, Jesse, we're going to have a conversation, man. Yeah.
It's coming.
Yeah,
we are.
What's the name of that organization that you were talking about though?
It's called Pastors R&R.
Pastors R&R. Okay.
Yep. PastorsRNR.com, I think is how you would find them.
Okay.
And so we had been recipients of this type of generosity. And so when Jesse and I connected, just the thrill of being able to be a part of something to provide this for more pastors, just was astounding. I mean, I was beside myself. This is amazing. Yeah. We're taking the platform that we built, which is all about outdoor activities. We call it the Passion First strategy. It's about being a short-term rental website where people can come, and instead of just searching for where they want to go, they can search for what they want to do. And then, opportunities they never knew existed to go fishing, to go kayaking, to go mountain biking, places they had never been before. So when you search for your passion, all these opportunities come up, where people list their short-term rental by what you can do there. And so you search for what you want to do, and then you go wherever the adventure takes you.
Man, that's wonderful.
It really is a cool idea. And, now taking that and adding this piece to it where we're encouraging and we're empowering generosity. Millions of short-term rental owners all over the world, millions who share our values and share our faith, millions who want to be good stewards of the things that the Lord has blessed them with. And, that the idea, God's blessed me with this property. God's blessed me with this short-term rental. How can I use it to glorify Him? And now we're giving them that opportunity. Donate some time to the Lord's servants, to the church leaders to go find some rest.
I absolutely love it. The short-term rental market is exploding. I mean, a week after this recording, within a week after this recording, I'm actually going to look at one for my business partner and I to actually invest into. And so I've already talked to James once, and Jesse, I'm sure I'll be in touch, but making sure that once we get things up and going, we're definitely going to be interested in getting listed on Be Still B&B and then with you guys. And so, I mean, it's an amazing idea. I love that you do it based on the adventure, not so much, just like where we're going to go vacation, but what do we want to go do? And so many families have that desire. Like, I want to do something. And I'm one of those, like, I want to go try something new. Maybe I've been there before, maybe I haven't, but I want to try something new while I'm there. I don't like doing the same thing over and over again, which is a whole fantastic thing, being a leadership coach and having trouble with consistency. But that's for me and my therapist to work out. So anyway, but yeah, that's awesome. And that you can go in there and find it. And so you've mentioned a couple of the adventures, but kind of give a rundown if you can of, some of the primary main ones that you guys have listed right now.
Yeah. And I think there's close to 30 you can search by, and includes everything from archery to mushroom hunting. I mean, you name it, you can search for it and find it.
Hang on real quick. Mushroom hunting?
I was surprised too, but I
mean, is it actually what it sounds like? You hunt mushrooms?
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
There's probably an asparagus hunting one for Wisconsin, I would guess.
Yeah, that one I've never heard of that before. I mean, I don't know. Do you have to get a mushroom stand and wait for them? Or something? I'm sorry, I shouldn't say that. I'm sorry. If you are listening to this and you like mushroom hunting, I'm not trying to make fun of you. I'm just making fun of your hobby. Sorry.
The mushrooms don't get spooked the same way the deer do. No, so you actually got to walk around and find them. I mean, you have the things that you would expect to find. I think some of our most popular searches right now are golf, fishing, and we have ocean fishing, fly fishing, freshwater fishing. Kayaking is a big one. Mountain biking is a big one. Hiking is a big one.
That makes sense.
I think those are our top 5 right now. But I mean, we have bird watching. Believe it or not, people want to travel to bird watch.
Yeah. That makes sense.
So we got bird watching on there. Horseback riding, mountain biking, overland camping. Oh, that's such a cool thing. So we have people who have property. Yeah. So you get a cool vehicle like a Jeep or a Bronco or something manly, right?
Yeah.
And they actually have these kits you can put on top of them so they rest on top of the vehicle.
Okay, I've seen that.
Basically fold open. Yeah.
Yeah, I've seen those.
You have this whole camping rig on top of your vehicle. You can just go park it anywhere you want. And then you're literally over the land because it folds out and it's over the land as well as over the vehicle. So,
love it.
A lot of the popular things, pickleball, parasailing.
Man. And now
you can basically search for anything you want to do.
That is awesome. Now, Jesse, the partnership with Be Still B&B and Lodge Lovers, if I'm correct, right, is so that you can provide those types of adventure outings and really whatever refreshing activity, if you will, to pastors. Is that right?
Yeah. Any listing on Lodge Lovers, what we've brought to the table as Be Still is this concept of a generosity calendar. So any host that activates a generosity calendar on Lodge Lovers, they have some more tools in their toolbox when they're in their calendar page where they can set, nights that they want to donate that pastors can use. And the cool thing is we call it a blended donation. Like they aren't missing out on paying public. It's the first come, first served kind of scenario where if a pastor or missionary books it, it's free. If the paying public wants to book it, it's they pay for it. So literally any listing that you find on Lodge Lovers, I mean, it could be a place that's $1,000 a night in just this amazing mansion of a place. amazing places out in the middle of nowhere where it's a, one room shack. It's all based on the property owner and their generosity that they're willing to give towards a purpose of fighting clergy burnout. We give them the tools to do it.
Yep.
Man, that is awesome.
Yeah. So not every host is a donating host.
Sure.
That's one of the things we want more hosts. We want more donating hosts.
Absolutely. That's good.
We know once the word gets out and people know this is available in here, it's a game changer. We want it to be a game changer.
Yeah. And I love that it's a Christian business. At its heart, is everyone on there a Christian that's providing? Probably not. But what I love is behind the scenes, the guys running things, the founders of it, your faith. And I know that the finances are not just going to be used to pad your pockets, right? You need to get paid. That's obviously a workman is worth his wage. And that's a right thing to do. But I love that I can trust that if I go through this organization, my funds are not going to be misallocated in such a way that I would go against it. And then you're also using your platform, partnered with Jesse there, for there's this amazing, generous offer to help with pastors to not burn out. And again, to our guys that are listening that aren't pastors, there's various different programs, different things out there for maybe you and your industry or whatever it is you're doing. And I always hate, as a pastor, and Josh, maybe you can relate to this a bit. I don't ever want to be the woe is me pastor. Like, I'm a pastor, my life is terrible, blah blah blah. No, look, we all got it hard. We all got stuff we're going through, right? I will say, and my limited experience, I've only been lead pastor for about 5 years. It'll be 5 years in July in 2024. It's different. It is different than what most jobs are, for sure. However, I don't ever want to neglect the difficulty of, the 35-year-old guy who's working his 9 to 5, trying to make ends meet for his family as his wife's dealing with this. Parents got health issues. I mean, everybody's got it going on. And so what I hope you guys that are listening will take from today is that, one, there are phenomenal organizations out there that align with your faith and your beliefs that you could spend your money at, that'll provide you a high quality experience and vacation like Lodge Lovers. And then if you have a pastor, Jesse, man, your heart, like I pray that every man in my ministry and Josh's ministry, just every man in Christendom would get that heart of how can we have our pastors back? And it's not to make the pastor an important person. It's to support him as he leads, as God calls him to lead, because you're not there to elevate his name. You're all there to elevate Jesus's name. And when everybody works together for that purpose, man, I believe the local church, the Big C church, however you want to view it, is just going to have an amazing impact on the lives of those that are around. So just kudos to you, man. And thanks so much for your sharing your heart there. Last couple minutes, guys, do me a favor. We'll start with Josh and then Jesse, if you'll round it out. If anybody wants to get in touch with you, connect with your business or anything like that, just go ahead and let everybody listening know how they can do that.
Yeah, for sure. LodgeLovers.com. That's where you can go. You can find all of our contact info there. You can read about what makes us different, our approach to short-term rental being passion first, and also the nonprofit work that we're so thrilled to be doing. You always check Lodge Lovers first. I'll say that. We might not have what you're looking for right now, but we're growing every single day. Literally every single day, we're adding more properties. Every booking helps fight clergy burnout. I want to make that point too. It's not just the donating properties, which we need more of, but it's also every booking we donate a portion back into Be Still to provide for fighting clergy burnout. So always check us first. If we got what you're looking for, fantastic. If not, come back next time. Look again. I'm sure we'll have more.
I want to comment on that real quick. You mentioned the growth. James and I were talking the other day, and I don't know if we can announce it or anything, but there was an organization that's supposed to be coming in with you guys to really just add like a ton of properties. And they're coming in pretty quickly from what he was telling me. And so, you guys, I'm excited to see the growth, how quick it's going to happen, and then what type of impact it's going to have.
Yeah.
James, how can they get in touch, man?
Yeah. So if you're listening to this and you are a pastor or missionary and you're like, hey, I want to be a member on Lodge Lovers and check these properties out. If you go to lodgelovers.com and just click Clergy Rest from the top menu, it leads you through everything. It'll get you signed up for membership. Once we get you approved, you'll click on that same menu to browse all the listings. If you're listening to this and you're like, I want to join in fighting clergy burnout, then click on Become a Host at lodgelovers.com. To find out more about our ministry, we're at bestillbnb.org. And it has links back to Lodge Lovers. We've got resources on there about Sabbath rest and, developing and maintaining healthy rhythms of rest. We're going to keep on adding content there. Really exciting book coming out this summer called Anti-Burnout by a friend of ours, Alan Briggs. And I think that'll be an amazing resource for not only pastors, but business leaders, different, like you said, we are all subject to this. If we aren't doing our part to just get alone with God and really focus in on our personal relationship with him, he can sustain us. He can refresh us. This book will help out with that coming out this summer.
That's awesome. Jesse, see, now you do have a book. Now you just got to develop a program around it, and then there you go. You'll have everything, and that'll be awesome.
This is the Friends book. It's a shameless plug for a very trusted Friends book.
Yeah, that's all right, man. We'll make sure to get it in the show notes there. And so, well, guys, listen, it's been an awesome interview with you. I'm going to talk to our audience real quick before we get off here. Those that are listening, you've been blessed today by hearing the stories of two men from very different walks of life that God brought together in a divine way as they were following after him. It's the reason the Men After God Network exists, is to help you achieve success with a thriving faith and family. And a lot of times that's going to happen by being connected with other men that you may be in the same vein of work with, or you may not be. But what you heard today is from two guys that have been through it in various different ways, have these amazing organizations, and are using them all for the glory of God. So I don't care where you're at in your life or what you're doing with your life. There's no cookie cutter Christianity, and whatever you're doing, put your hand to it, do it the best you can as unto the Lord. And remember, make him first, your family second, and then pursue after all things with that grit and perseverance we heard from Josh. If you want to reach out to these guys, check the show notes. You'll be able to get their contact information there. Don't forget, Becoming a Man After God book coming out soon. Follow us on Facebook at facebook.com/Men After God podcast for updates on that. And we look forward to connecting with you next week. We'll talk to you soon.
Thank you for listening to the Men After God podcast. Make sure you subscribe so you don't miss any future episodes, and keep up with the show by following us at facebook.com/Men After God. You can also reach out to Dustin personally at dustin@seekconsulting.us with any questions or for coaching on being a man after God. Until next time.